Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to find out how much faster my Golf R can go on ethanol versus the current 91 octane tune it's on. Okay, so last video I installed the integrated engineering high pressure fuel pump internals. This allows the fuel pump to flow the much higher volume that is required to run ethanol. Today we're going to be installing integrated engineering's Trueflex Kit. This kit is ethanol content sensor, wiring harness, and hardware. This video is not sponsored. There's another thing that I bought during Black Friday sales last year. Alright, so using the same methodology that I used on the previous 0-60 testing, I am not going to do an averaging or the best of three. I'm just going to do whatever I got on the first run, that's going to be the result. So, and I'll show you the clips here. On factory tune, my 0-60 result was 4.51. And then I flashed the integrated engineering stage 1 91 octane high torque tune with the DSG tune. Woo, that was a mouthful. And with that, I got 3.98. Okay, so now I'm going to install this Trueflex kit. I'm going to flash the tune. We're going to go to the gas station, put in some ethanol, and see what this thing does 0-60. Now, something to keep in mind about this result is the fact that when I did this last testing that I got that 3.98, that was in January. Guys, it was 60 degrees, about 60 or 59 degrees that day. And now I'm in the peak of summer. Today is supposed to get to 99 degrees here. So how much of an effect is the air temperature going to have on the outcome, regardless of whether or not this is making more power or not? I know it's going to make more power, but is it going to be enough to overcome the downfall of the significantly higher intake air temperatures? We're going to find out. So really, with that in mind, if I just match that 3.98 0-60 time in a 100-degree weather day like today, compared to 60 degrees, I want to take that as a win. Anything faster, even better. But you know, if I match it, considering that it's 40 degrees warmer today than it was back then, I'll take that as a win. And just like last time, guys, this is not instructional. Integrated engineering does have a massive, almost like 20-some pages instruction on how to install this kit. So I'm not going to do a better job than them. I'm just bringing you along with the journey, and more importantly, bringing you along for the testing 0-60. So stick around. Let's get this done. I decided I didn't want to put the sensor here because people have complained about access to the connector on this side here because of the coolant line. So I'm going to put it here, and that is an acceptable place. It is mentioned on the instructions from Integrated Engineering. Now keep in mind this is under pressure, so you want to make sure you wear your safety goggles and get a rag to catch all the fuel that's going to spray out. And no, I don't bother with the whole procedure of turning it on and letting the pump die down, pulling the fuse, whatnot. I don't do that stuff. That's just not that much pressure. You don't have to do all that. Just, you know, use common sense and you'll be fine. I don't know if you can tell, but I already marked the lines where I want to make the cuts. I don't have to cover it up as much for this side because obviously the pressure has already been relieved by cutting this side here. Alright, now if you can tell, the hose is a little shorter, and that was intentional. I did that so that way I have a little bit more play, like about a 1/4 inch here and about a 1/2 inch here of extra play. Alright guys, here's the sensor installed in its new position. You see how there's much more space here than there is on the other side. And I ran the ground over by the jump post, of the ground post, I mean. Then we run the power wire to the fuse box. That's the spot that I ended up using. Then is the fun part, pinning the DME connector. So I needed to pull this back, and I needed to pull back some of the insulation. Here's some of the deep pitting tools that I use in order to get there. There you go. That's all the insulation pulled back. And that's me looking for the little plug. And if you can see it there, you see that little gray thing in the center. Let me show you one that's, I'm already starting to push it out. There you go. So that's the spot where I needed to put this pin. So that's how it looks. You see how it has the teeth over to the right, to the left side. You need to match the teeth on your pin so it goes in there. So there you go. The pin is inside. And then we start reassembling the harness. Look at that. That's where I ran it through from the bottom. And there you go. Like nothing. All right, this is all done now. Everything's installed, everything looks clean. The only thing you can tell different is obviously the sensor here and the odd color wires here, which honestly, if you put electrical tape on that, this would not stand out at all. So I'm now going to put the engine cover back on, and I'm going to flash the new tune for it. All right, guys, sorry for being so sweaty, but it is already 99 degrees out here. But the car's all done. Everything went well. I want to get to the 0 to 60. So if you can see the screenshot right now, I currently have 7% ethanol in the tank with about a quarter of the tank full right now. And that is because I use Shell V-Power. And typically that one is more like 10%. So I'm wondering why it only had 7% right now. But anyway, it is what it is. With that said, the gas station that I get my E85 from, historically, it's never E85, it's actually E70. So I expect at the end of this, now that I'm going to fill up the tank with that E70, this is probably going to come out to maybe somewhere between E55 to E60, but that'll be enough to make a night and day improvement on this. So give me a second, let's go to the gas station now. I was so excited because I missed ethanol so much from my last car. It's not a day difference. It's also a whole lot cheaper than anything else on there. Look at that. I just filled it up from less than a quarter tank. And there we go. After a while driving, 61%. All right, so final content. We're sitting at E61. I'm happy with that. All right, so now let's go over to my friend's land. He's got a nice flat road that I always use for testing. And he's there right now, thankfully. So let me go and let's get some results. All right, so let's see. So from this side, I just see a big gap at the top, but that's kind of hard to distinguish from a good one. But here is my telltale. The prong going across is literally sitting on the body. It is not being suspended. So this mount just died. Yep. Right, well, that clearly did not go how I wanted. I wanted it to be at least at the same 4.0, or I'm sorry, 3.98, around that area. But you see it here, like it's an invalid number, but it is a 4.2, and that is obviously slower than before, but I think it's because I was making more power. I didn't feel any tire slip, but what I did feel is that when I went to shift 1-2, I felt the whole drivetrain rock around, and that's something that wasn't happening before. Ever since I put in the lower mount insert, that eliminated all of that. But I had a mental note that at some point I was going to have to replace both transmission and the engine mounts, and I think that time came today, because on that launch, again, I felt slop on the drivetrain, whereas I didn't have it before. So I think it's just because the engine is making more power, and it just happened to kill the original old mounts that I have here. So with that said, inconclusive. I'm going to say inconclusive. I know there's more power, but I don't have anything to prove it yet, obviously, because now I have a new problem, which is my motor mounts. So I'm going to go ahead and replace those at some point soon, and then we will redo this test. So get you guys a proper before and after test on this. I'm not going to do any other engine-related modifications to this until we get those motor mounts replaced and we can do a proper launch, and then we can call this done. So with that said, guys, thank you so much if you're still watching. I do appreciate the support, so thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.